Jesus warned us when this happens, it's too late. Jesus warned there's a moment when it becomes too late to escape. Not too late in some vague spiritual sense, but too late in a very real, very literal way. He gave us 4 specific signs that mark the point of no return. You will be shocked when you discover these 4 warnings and why the 3rd sign means you have seconds to run. Sign number 1. Birth pangs, when disasters start following a pattern. Jesus was teaching on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and asked the question that every generation has wondered about. Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? They wanted to know. They needed to know. What should we be watching for? And Jesus' answer is recorded in Matthew 24. But before I show you what he said, I need you to understand something. Jesus wasn't just listing random events. He was describing a pattern, a progression, a specific sequence that would tell us we're approaching the end. Listen to how he describes it. Matthew 24, 6-8. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. The beginning of sorrows. That phrase in Greek is incredibly specific. It literally means birth pangs, the contractions a woman experiences before giving birth. Now, why would Jesus use that analogy? Why birth pangs? Because birth pangs follow a very specific pattern. They don't stay the same. They don't remain constant. They do 2 things simultaneously. They increase in frequency, and they increase in intensity. Early labor, contractions might come every 30 minutes, and they're uncomfortable but manageable. As labor progresses, every 15 minutes, more painful. Getting closer, every 5 minutes, even more intense. Final stage, every minute. Overwhelming, all-consuming. And you know what that means? Birth is imminent. Jesus is telling us, watch for wars, famines, pestilences, earthquakes, but don't just watch for them individually. Watch for the pattern. Watch for them to increase in frequency and intensity. Because when you see that happening, when you see these events accelerating like birth pangs, you know the birth is near. Let me show you what this looks like. Wars and rumors of wars. Matthew 24:6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. We've always had wars. Human history is filled with conflict. But Jesus isn't just saying there will be wars. He's saying there will be an escalation, an intensification. But here's what you need to notice. The conflicts are escalating. The weapons are more deadly. Nuclear arsenals that could destroy civilization multiple times over. Hypersonic missiles that can strike anywhere in minutes. Cyber warfare that can cripple entire nations without firing a shot. And the rumors of wars? Every day. Tensions between superpowers. Threats of nuclear conflict. Nations choosing sides. Alliances forming. Everyone watching to see who makes the first move. The frequency is increasing. The intensity is increasing. Birth pangs. Famines. Matthew 24:7. And there shall be famines. The United Nations World Food Program reported that in 2023, 345 million people faced acute food insecurity. That's more than double the number from 2020. But it's not just about numbers. It's about the pattern. And experts are warning, it's going to get worse. Much worse. Some predict global food shortages unlike anything we've seen in modern history. Frequency increasing. Intensity increasing. Birth pangs. Pestilences. Jesus mentions pestilences, plagues, diseases. The U.S. Geological Survey maintains records of significant earthquakes, and the data shows a troubling trend. Major earthquakes, magnitude 6.0 and higher, are becoming more frequent. Early 1900s? A few significant earthquakes per year globally. Recent decades? Dozens per year, sometimes over 100. And they're hitting in diverse places, exactly as Jesus said. Not just known earthquake zones. Places that rarely experienced seismic activity are now seeing significant quakes. And seismologists warn the big one is coming. Major fault lines are overdue for massive quakes. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Tokyo. When they hit, the devastation could be unprecedented. Frequency increasing. Intensity increasing. Birth pangs. The pattern is undeniable. Do you see it? The beginning, not the end. The beginning of birth pangs. Which means, if these are the beginning contractions, what comes next is going to be far more intense, far more devastating, far closer together. The birth is approaching. But here's what you need to understand. Birth pangs alone don't tell you the exact moment of birth. They tell you it's coming. They tell you to prepare. They tell you time is running short. The first sign tells us we're in the season. We're approaching the time. The contractions have started. But there are 3 more signs. And the third one, the one I'm going to show you in detail, that's the sign that tells you, this is it. The moment has arrived. And if you're not ready, it's too late. Before we get there, you need to understand the second sign. Because what Jesus describes next is a paradox that's playing out right before our eyes. Sign number 2. The Great Divide. The Church's darkest hour and finest hour. Here's what makes the second sign so remarkable. It's actually 2 things happening simultaneously. 2 seemingly opposite realities occurring at the exact same time. On one hand, the greatest persecution the church has ever faced. Believers hunted, imprisoned, tortured, killed. Many falling away from faith under the pressure. On the other hand, the gospel spreading to every nation on earth like never before in history. Technology enabling unprecedented reach. The message going where it's never gone before. It's the church's darkest hour and its finest hour happening at once. Let me show you what Jesus said. The persecution. Matthew 24, 9-10. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Then, after the birth pangs begin, this starts happening. They shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. This is persecution. Systematic, violent, deadly. Ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Not just some nations, all nations. Global persecution of Christians. And look at what happens under this pressure. Then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Many will fall away. Many who claim to be believers will abandon their faith when persecution comes. They'll betray other believers to save themselves. They'll turn against each other. Is this happening now? Yes, and it's accelerating. Open Doors, an organization that tracks Christian persecution worldwide, reports that over 360 million Christians face high levels of persecution and discrimination. That's 1 in 7 Christians globally. In some nations, Christians are arrested for owning a Bible, imprisoned for attending church. The list is long and growing, and it's not just in obviously hostile nations. Western countries are seeing increasing hostility toward Christianity, Christians losing jobs for their beliefs. Churches that once preached the gospel now deny fundamental doctrines to gain cultural acceptance. Leaders abandoning biblical truth to avoid offense. Read that again carefully. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. This is a requirement, a condition that must be met before the end arrives. The gospel must be preached to all nations, every nation, every people group, every tribe and tongue must hear the message. And only then, after this is accomplished, shall the end come. For most of history, this seemed impossible. How could the gospel reach remote tribes in the Amazon, isolated villages in the Himalayas, closed nations like North Korea or Saudi Arabia? But something has changed in our generation, something that makes the impossible possible. Technology. The internet reaches nearly every corner of the globe. Smartphones are ubiquitous. Social media crosses borders. Satellite communications connect the remotest regions. Translation technology breaks language barriers. The gospel is being preached in more languages, to more people, in more places than ever before in human history. Missionary organizations report over 95% of the world's population can now access the Bible in their own language. The gospel is being broadcast into closed nations via radio, internet, and satellite. Underground churches are growing in persecuted regions. The message is spreading. Wycliffe Bible Translators, SIL International, and other organizations have translated Scripture into over 3,000 languages. Translation work continues on the remaining languages. The goal is within reach. Every nation, every tongue, every people group having access to God's Word. And Jesus said, "When this is accomplished, then shall the end come." We're closer to fulfilling this condition than any generation in history. Do you see the paradox? At the very moment when persecution is most intense, when many are falling away, when it seems like the church is under its greatest attack, the gospel is spreading faster and farther than ever before. The darkest hour, the finest hour, simultaneously. This is exactly what Jesus predicted. And here's what this tells us. The stage is set. The conditions are being met. We're in the season Jesus described, because this is the sign Jesus emphasized above all others. This is the moment when everything changes. This is the point of no return. Sign number 3, the abomination of desolation, when it's too late. Stop. Before I tell you what this sign is, I need you to understand something. Jesus considered this sign so important that he specifically told his listeners, "Pay attention. Make sure you understand this. Don't miss what I'm about to tell you." Look at how he introduces it. Matthew 24:15. "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand." Whoso readeth, let him understand. Jesus is telling us, this is critical. This is the key. Make sure you get this. And then he references Daniel the prophet. He's pointing us back to an Old Testament prophecy that reveals exactly what this sign is and when it occurs. So what is the abomination of desolation? Let me show you step by step, because when you see this, you're going to realize this isn't some vague spiritual concept. This is a specific, literal event that we can watch for. Daniel's prophecy. Jesus references Daniel. So let's go to Daniel and see what he prophesied. Daniel 9:27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. This verse is packed with information. Let me unpack it. He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. He refers to the Antichrist, the coming world ruler who will deceive the nations. The covenant is a peace agreement. 1 week, in prophetic terms, means 7 years. So, the Antichrist will make a 7-year covenant, a peace treaty, with many nations. This treaty is specifically focused on Israel and the Middle East. This 7-year treaty marks the beginning of the tribulation period. When this covenant is signed, the prophetic clock starts ticking. 7 years. That's how long humanity has left before Christ returns. But here's where it gets critical. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. In the middle of the 7 years, at the 3.5-year mark, 1,260 days in, the Antichrist breaks the covenant. And he does something specific. He causes the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. What sacrifice? What oblation? This is temple language. Jewish temple worship language. Sacrifices and offerings performed in the temple. Which means, for the Antichrist to stop temple sacrifices, the temple must exist. The Jewish temple must be rebuilt in Jerusalem. Stop and think about that for a moment. Right now, there's no Jewish temple in Jerusalem. The last temple was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. For nearly 2,000 years, there's been no temple, no sacrifices, no temple worship. But Daniel's prophecy requires the temple to be standing again, because the Antichrist is going to enter it and stop the sacrifices. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. After stopping the sacrifices, the Antichrist commits an abomination, a detestable, horrifying act that makes the temple desolate. What does he do? Let me show you from another passage, 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The Antichrist enters the temple, sits in the temple, and declares himself to be God. This is the abomination of desolation. The Antichrist, Satan's representative, the beast, the man of sin, standing in God's holy place, claiming to be God, demanding worship. It's the ultimate blasphemy, the supreme abomination, the act that defiles the temple and makes it desolate. And Jesus said, when you see this, understand what it means. Jesus' urgent command. Now look at what Jesus says immediately after mentioning the abomination of desolation, Matthew 24:16-20. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Read that carefully. This isn't casual advice. This is urgent, desperate warning. Flee into the mountains. Run. Get out. Immediately. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Don't stop to pack. Don't grab your belongings. Don't waste a second. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. If you're working in the field when you hear this news, don't even go home. Run directly to the mountains. Why such urgency? Why such desperate, immediate flight? Because of what comes next. Matthew 24:21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Great tribulation! The worst period in human history. Worse than the flood. Worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Worse than any war, any plague, any disaster that has ever occurred. This is the period that makes everything else look minor by comparison. And it starts immediately after the abomination of desolation. What makes it so terrible? What happens during this great tribulation? Why is it the worst time in history? Let me show you. First, the Antichrist reveals his true nature. The covenant was a deception. The peace was a lie. Now the mask comes off, and he shows himself as the beast he truly is. Second, he begins systematic persecution of Jews and Christians. Anyone who refuses to worship him, anyone who refuses his mark, he hunts them down, imprisons them, executes them. Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Worship the beast or die. That's the choice. Third, the mark of the beast is implemented. Revelation 13:16-17. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. You cannot buy food, cannot sell goods, cannot participate in the economy, unless you have his mark. But here's the horror. Taking the mark damns you eternally. Revelation 14:9-11. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up for ever and ever. And they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Take the mark, eternal condemnation. No second chance, no forgiveness, permanent, irreversible damnation. So the choice becomes starve or be damned, face death or face eternal torment. This is the Great Tribulation. Fourth, God's wrath intensifies. The trumpet judgments, the bowl judgments. Revelation chapters 8-16 describe them in horrifying detail. hail and fire mixed with blood. A third of trees burned, all grass burned. A great mountain thrown into the sea. A third of the sea becomes blood. A third of sea creatures die. A star called wormwood falls from heaven. A third of fresh water becomes poisoned. The sun and moon darkened. Demonic locusts released from the bottomless pit, tormenting those who don't have God's seal. An army of 200 million killing a third of mankind. Painful sores on those who have the mark. The entire sea turning to blood. Rivers and springs becoming blood. Scorching heat from the sun. Darkness covering the beast's kingdom. The Euphrates River drying up. The greatest earthquake in history. Cities collapsing. Islands disappearing. Mountains crumbling. 100-pound hailstones falling from the sky. This is what happens during the Great Tribulation. This is the horror unleashed after the abomination of desolation. Matthew 24:22. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. If this period continued indefinitely, no one would survive. All flesh would be destroyed. Humanity would be extinct. But God limits it. For the elect's sake, for the believers who refuse the mark and maintain faith, those days are shortened. How long is the Great Tribulation? From the abomination of desolation to Christ's return. 1,260 days, 3.5 years, 42 months. Daniel 12:11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be a 1,290 days. 1,290 days from the abomination to the end. The extra 30 days likely account for transition into Christ's millennial kingdom. This is the point of no return. Now, do you see why Jesus said to flee immediately when you see the abomination of desolation? Because when that event occurs, when the Antichrist enters the temple and declares himself God, it triggers 1,260 days of hell on earth. If you're not ready before that moment, you're in trouble. Deep trouble. You'll face a choice. Take the mark and be damned eternally, or refuse the mark and likely be killed. You'll face the worst persecution in history, the most intense judgments God has ever poured out, the complete collapse of civilization as we know it. This is why Jesus emphasized this sign above all others. Whoso readeth, let him understand. When you see the abomination of desolation, know this: the point of no return has been crossed. The Great Tribulation has begun. Time has run out.
Many seem to be confused because they do not understand the book of Revelation. However, what if there was an animation showing the entire book? Well, we created that. And to watch that, click here.